Wingman of Reddit, what crazy things have you done to get your friend laid? So this girl was really into my roommate and she didn't know how to go about getting him interested in her. I didn't mention that he was already into her because I figured things would work. Nature would take over. But I know that my roommate never really had a girlfriend that liked to actively give blowjobs and that he really wanted a girlfriend who he wouldn't feel bad about asking for one. So I texted her a little guide to my roommate and inside I explained that his biggest turn on and favorite thing ever is spontaneous blowjobs. So after a few days they started seeing each other. Months later I had asked how they were doing and he explained, man, I don't know what her deal is but she is crazy about blowjobs. I've never had so many in my life. It's fantastic. I felt like a child's parent after hiding money from the tooth fairy under their pillow. Update. Wow. Reddit gold. Thanks everyone. Unfortunately the relationship did not last too long and I may or may not have ruined his sex life by forcing it to peak too early. That being said, his current girlfriend is super awesome and I hope she too enjoys giving blowjobs. The blowjob fairy. Existing as comparison. My friend was sleeping over at my house. My parents and brother were all sleeping upstairs while we were downstairs watching TV, playing video games and it. At around 1 AM he asks if this girl can come over. He really wants to get with this girl. And I don't want to turn him down so I reluctantly agree. On the condition that she's quiet. The three of us are hanging out and I make some excuse to leave the room so my friend can have some alone time with this girl. I'm upstairs in my room when I start hearing loud moans. This is bad news for me, but great news for my friend. He's losing his virginity to a girl he really likes. I hear stirring in the next room and I know that their bout of loud lovemaking has woken my parents. The last thing I want is for my confused father to walk in on my friend ducking this girl in my basement. What do? I go to Pornhub, click on the first video I see, crank that it to 100 on my speakers and let it play for the 3 minutes that my buddy ended up lasting. My dad ended up coming into my room. Discovering the source of the noise, I even threw in some fapping motion under the covers, and awkwardly leaving. My buddy ended up having the best ducking time ever, bro, but Jesus, there were some awkward glances exchanged between my parents and I the next morning. Edit. Obligatory holy duck 52 months of gold. Edit. I am a girl and pretended to be with my guy friend because this hot chick was really freaky and wanted a threesome with a couple. We hit on her for an hour or so. I left and he kept dancing with her, assuring her that his girlfriend wouldn't mind. He brought her home and I just happened to never show up for the threesome. He so owes me for that one. Edit. I realized this sounds really awkward because I tried to make it short. He went up to her at the bar and started hitting on her. She saw me next to him and got all excited, asking if we were a couple and drunkenly saying how much she was turned on by the idea of a threesome with a couple. He looked so sad when he started to explain. So I played along. It was awesome. Edit 2. You guys should keep in mind that your female friends can be great wingmen. If she goes up to her and compliments her outfit and strikes up a conversation, then you can come over to talk to your friend. It shows that random girl that at least one of us doesn't think you're creepy. I don't have plans for next weekend if any of you need a wingwoman. With buddy at a bar. Meet a guy and girl we thought were a couple. Be social and find out not. The girl is clearly interested in my buddy. So I team up with other dude to go hunt. Find out he's gay. Really likes my style. I owed my buddy big time for past events and he played the card. So I pretended to be curious with the other dude. Until the end of the night when my friend left with a girl. Then I calmly explained the situation. To which he responded, you give me a kiss right now, and I won't call her and cockblock your friend. Bro powers activate. Gave the dude a power kiss. He loved it. I realized how awful beards are to be face smashed against. Confirmed my heterosexuality and went home alone. Went out with a large group of friends for my best friend's birthday. Ended up in a club. My friend had been drinking heavily throughout the day, and we were meant to be meeting up with a group of girls later on, one of whom was a long-time interest he'd had. Just as we arrived at the club, he threw up everywhere. I mean just all down himself and just looked horrible. Anyway, as was expected, he sobered up pretty soon after, and just kept saying how he couldn't believe he'd blown his chance with this girl. A few friends said he should just go home and call it a night, but he was getting more and more upset because apparently she'd said it was a sure thing if he met up with her. Now, he didn't have much luck with the girls and I really wanted this for him. So I took him to a nearby alley and, after actually having to convince him to make this happen, got him to switch clothes with me. He went in, had a great time, and has now been with the girl for about 3 years. I went home in a taxi covered in sick TL. Doctor I changed into my friend's sick covered clothes so he could continue his night out and get the girl. Edit wow. Thanks for the gold and the responses. To answer a few things. The taxes in Manchester, England, are pretty strict on people without clothes on. So that stopped being an option. However, sick covered clothes are apparently okay. She does now know the story. He told her a week later and I got a night of free drinks out of it, and she actually tells the story the most out of the three of us, and, in an odd twist, it now actually helps get me girls on nights out. In our dorm all of the window screens were fastened by screws. There were no female visitors allowed after 10 PM. I removed the screws from my ground floor window and passed the word to the entire dorm that any visitors were welcome to pass through. It wasn't long before I had girls knocking on my window at all hours of the night. I would remove the screen, open the window, help them climb through, send them in the right direction, and replace the screen and close the window. The resident assistants never knew, as my room was directly opposite from the front office. So, you could say I was a wingman for the entire dorm. I started talking to a group of attractive girls at a party shortly before introducing my girlfriend. After a short while I began asking them about college sports. Me. Do any of you watch college basketball? Them. No. Not really. Me. So you've never seen Princeton play? Them. No. Me. So you don't recognize that dude over there? Points to my tall friend Justin. Them. No. Should we? Me. To friend. Justin. Come here. Justin. Yes. Me. I was just talking to these girls about how you got a full ride to Princeton as their starting point guard. This was before smartphones. His other friends kept coming up to him congratulating him on his scholarship while he has a girl on each knee, one rubbing his shoulders, and two more surrounding him all night. TL. DR told a group of girls that my tall gamer friend got a full ride basketball scholarship. Piggyback carried a girl to a friend's house about half a mile away. Just kind of dropped her off as soon as we got in. Crashed on the couch and said, "You two kids have fun." This girl was really into guys, so I kissed my friend in front of her. Edit. Didn't expect any attention on this. But, I am a guy. My friend is a guy. My friend did get laid. The kiss was 8/6/10. We still homies. I had a party at my house and a lot of people ended up crashing there because they were way too drunk to drive home. All the rooms were occupied except for mine. My buddy met this girl and really wanted to hook up with her but had nowhere to do it. So I offered up my lovely, innocent bed to spread his baby gravy all over. I slept on the ground in the other room and woke up the next morning with a note thanking me, a $20 bill, and my sheets in the washing machine. Grabbed a tit so my friend could punch me in the face and take the girl home to console her. Classic Back to the Future move. Edit. I get IT. It's a sleazy thing to do. The subject of the AskReddit is craziest, not most moral. It's not a go-to move. We drunkenly concocted the plan and it somehow worked. I probably should have had my ass beat. Joined a racist, nationalist, homophobic youth organization. It had certain controversial views on border protection and homosexual marriage that I was ignorant of, so she could score some ignorant douchnizzle. I'm Chinese Australian. I basically joined a group to tell my own people they should go home. Edit. It was university group with vague links to the Australia First party pile. My dorm neighbor was having his girlfriend over but had nowhere to fool around since his roommate also had a girl over. Being nice, I gave him my room and planned to sleep in my other neighbor's room. I slept in my neighbor on the other side's room until he starts having phone sex with his girlfriend. I ended up sleeping in the hallway on the floor with a pillow and a quilt. Edit. Clarity. Edit 2. I slept in my neighbor. My buddy, let's call him Blake, and I were at the bar sometime last year. The bar isn't really my scene, but Blake convinces me to go out with him anyways. So there we are drinking PBR and vibing to itty music. Not my scene, when all of a sudden Blake says, "Dude, those two chicks over there are checking us out, man." Lo and behold, one's a 8/10, other is a 5/10 on her best day. Sure enough, he begs me to wingman for him and convincingly expresses his desires of trying to get her to leave with him or number at least. So after some contemplation we approach them. Now the original game plan was to triple seize it, play it cool, calm, collected, but almost immediately after we walk up I spill some of my beer on 8/10 chick's feet. In my defense, I was a little tipsy and trying to dance walk my way over. Blake sees this and didn't miss a beat. As he slipped, he's retarded after giving my name. Of course both girls assume he actually meant I was retarded, so they both thought he was a down-to-earth guy for partying with his special friend. I catch the hint as I can already see the 8/10 immediately flirting with Blake. I played it off like I couldn't tell what was going on all night. Eventually they go their own way while 5/10 and I talk about growing up being bullied. Blake left with his girl, eventually ducked that night. 5/10 dropped me off at my house. It was hell. TLDR, I had to pretend I was special to help a brother out. I only get partial credit for this one because I didn't actually do anything, but it's still my favorite. So, every year a bunch of friends and I go to DragonCon in Atlanta. Last year I couldn't go because I was deployed in Afghanistan. So my buddy decided to get a 5-foot-tall print of a picture of me, paste it to a board, and carry it around the whole time. Apparently it was a great conversation starter and the whole "I'm bringing my friend here in spirit" thing played extremely well. He ended up sleeping with some girl dressed as Lara Croft. TLDR. My buddy used a 5-foot-tall picture of me to bang Lara Croft. I ducked her fat friend. Ended up having a much better time than my buddy. Best BJ ever. Not really crazy, but I was always in on some of the magic tricks that a buddy would do at a bar. This involved stuffing a card into a girl's purse with her back turned to me, pretending I was just a stranger who miraculously has her card in my coat pocket. This system actually worked to some degree. Double date. I got stuck with 2 hours of listening to a frat guy talk about all the cool moves and kills he did while playing Call of Duty. I thought he was really lonely until I suggested we change the subject and he started talking about lacrosse during a hand job. He just really liked listening to how awesome he was. For the first time in my life, I wished I had a D so I could stuff it in his mouth and shut him the duck up. I told a girl that my friend only had 2 months to live and that it would make him happy if she showed interest in him. My friend was actually a pretty attractive guy, so she took this request and ducked his brains out. Edit. Dang. My top comment ever is now like the most maniacal thing I've ever done. I don't have many good comments. So I had this friend, a white and nerdy type, 18 and eager to lose his virginity. One night I decided to take him out to a house party and introduce him to another single friend, a hot chick, a naughty librarian type of girl. A couple of drinking late for both of them. They really start to hit it off, so I walk off to do my thing. The night is great, dancing, drinking and ducking around. Then I see my friend at the bar kitchen bench surrounded by 2 guys pushing and yelling at him. Naturally I walk over to sort this out. Apparently he spilled a drink of one of the guys, and the guy was pissed that his socks are wet. I try to talk things out without resulting to violence, which clearly isn't working. So I tell my friend to go back to the girl, and I stay back and deal with this asshole. Thus I ended out getting into a fight with these 2 blokes outside, mainly getting the egg beat out of me, while my friend was getting his brains ducked out in the bedroom upstairs. Still to this day haven't told about the fight. TL. Doctor got beaten up so that my friend can lose his virginity. I have a moderate gambling problem. Went to Atlantic City with some friends and actually had a successful night, making about $500 at the poker table. It was about 2 AM and I for once made the responsible decisions to go to bed at a reasonable hour. And while I was ahead, I am the first one back to the room and go to sleep. Some time later, my friend comes back with a young lady. They make small talk about her life collecting tolls and living under bridges. harassing billy goats, etc. It soon becomes clear that my friend intends to bed this girl. He makes a move but she rebuffs him. Uncomfortable with the fact that I am, they think, sleeping in the other bed. I was going to just continue to lay there so as to cock-block my friend and prevent him from making this mistake. But it became clear my friend really wanted to do this. So I woke and said, gosh, that was a great nap. I feel refreshed and ready to go back down to the casino. Since there was nothing else to do, I started gambling again. I didn't want to go back to the poker table, so I sat down at the slots, where I proceeded to piss away the $500 profit and another $300 for good measure. TLDR, have a gambling problem. Went back to a casino so my friend could duck a fat chick. Lost $800. Alternative TLDR, essentially paid for the world's most ugliest $800 prostitute for my friend. Walked 4.5 miles in a foot of January snow at 3 in the morning. Would still do it again. Had sex with a gross fat guy because my friend was into his friend. Never again. I kissed my friend so that a girl would go home with him. Friend successfully banged the hot chick. Was out with a female buddy and she said this guy is checking me out, but I think he thinks we are a couple. I waited until he was walking by, then I jumped out near him and starting singing "Oh I'm gay, oh so pretty and oh so gay." He asked for her number a few minutes later and I gave her a high five. Buddy of mine was talking to a girl who was making not so subtle hints that he should get over there. He unfortunately was about 90 minutes by car away and didn't even have a car. As it was 1 AM he didn't even have public transport to avail himself of. He mentioned his dilemma to a small social group and I decided he was losing his V card that night. I drove 20 minutes to his house, then 90 up the coast to drop him off near 3 AM. Mission was a complete success. I tied her up, put her in the back of my car and drove her to my friend's house. I let a gay dude play with my nipples so my gay buddy could hook up with his friend. Didn't know gay dudes were into nipple play. Edit. I'm a straight guy BTW. Plus didn't know my nipples would get this many comments. My buddy and I were drinking at this rural cemetery and he brought this girl that he hadn't quite been able to get with yet. So he gets her drinking and she gets horny, and the problem is I'm there and they have no privacy. In my porn riddled brain I think, well, maybe I can get in on this, but my buddy comes up to me and asks me if I could go up to the front of the cemetery and stay there until they are finished. So I sat in a dark rural cemetery by myself for 20 minutes drinking Jägermeister and contemplating jerking off to the sounds of my buddy and this girl ducking. I didn't jerk off, I just cried on the inside and drank my booze. Best lay he ever had, and I third wheeled it in the dark. Gave up a girl I'm still in love with. Long story short, he wouldn't date her because I had feelings for her, even though she had feelings for him. I encouraged him to go after her. He did. I'm still close with both, and it kinda hurts. Edit. Started watching him just because of the multiple TED comments I got. Hits a little too close to home. Distracto ducked his friend so my best friend could sneak off into the spare bedroom with him. Worst lay ever. He couldn't get hard enough for the condom, and when he finally did, he kind of just humped at me limply until he came. Did I mention we were on the floor of the study? His cat's litter box was a foot from my face. Edit. Thanks for the gold. Resting parrot. I stole a lady's bike. My friend was into a lady and the three of us ended up drinking late one night. She was with a bike while we two were on foot. At the end of I stole the lady's bike so that they would have to figure things out by themselves. Allegedly they were making out on the street corner before I was out of sight. They date for 6 months. Job well done. I had a friend who was open visiting and she didn't want to sleep on the couch, so I told her that she should just sleep in my roommate's bed with him. She was good looking and he was as a neckbird, so he was happy to have a hot girl in his bed. After a couple of nights, she tells me that he hasn't made a move and it's getting annoying. Of course, she is unwilling to make a move either, so they just stay up all night talking about painfully stupid shit that I'm sure no man cares about. But he is entertaining it because of the chance he might get some. Next day I ask her if he's made a move. She responds he's still being such a sweet guy, but I saw some condoms. I'm not sure if he is trying to give me a hint. I then ask him if he's hooked up with her yet and he tells me no. but I found condoms on my nightstand that I didn't put there. My response: she might be giving you a hint. Go for it. He goes for it and bangs her for the next week. They still don't know it was I who bought the condoms and strategically placed them on his stand without telling either of them. I spent 5 hours keeping this girl, who for all intents and purposes is the most annoying human being on the face of the earth, busy so my friend could get with her friend. They dated for a month. He broke it off and started banging my ex's best friend. He never slept with the first girl. Then the first girl decided she wanted me, as soon as she found out I had started dating her best friend. Then 2 months later I find out that the super annoying girl also likes me, and now they're all at war with each other. TL. Doctor had the worst night of my life to try and help a friend. Turns out I wasted my time. Stupid drama ensues. I hate everyone I know. I pretended to be gay so my friend could bang Up's mom. I keep well versed on the topics of yoga, feminism, cooking, movies, music, reality TV and random factoids in order to provide distraction to mother hens and other would-be blokers. I have slain many a dragon in the name of friendship and upholding the duty as a wingman. I've pretended to be blind, deaf and even gay. I've given up my hotel room, given up my car or my apartment for an evening. I always carry spare condoms and gum every night. I am a wingman, and goddamn it I'm so sick of it. Reddit for additional info. My friends do return the favor. However, I'm just tired of the whole ordeal in general. It can be time consuming. I was with my buddy and I introduced him to a friend of mine. We were all in my basement hanging out and I noticed them start to get close on the couch. I was sitting at the computer, made an excuse to go upstairs and turned on Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On before exiting the room. They had sex while I was upstairs watching The Daily Show with the volume really loud so my parents wouldn't hear the shenanigans going on downstairs. A large group of us decided it would be fun to break into an outdoor pool late at night and go for a swim. A girl that one of my buddies had been interested in for some time was going to be there, so naturally he made an appearance too. They ended up chatting for quite some time, and it looked like they were going to go home together. The night started to die down, and the only people left were myself, my buddy, a girl, and another friend of mine. As we're preparing to leave the pool, the police show up, just one car, so a couple of officers, and are about to arrest us. I can see the massive look of disappointment on my buddy's face, so I take a deep breath and shout wild card itchy yes. Toss a huge bin of pool toys into the pool, and jump on top of the police cruiser naked. Fortunately, both of the officers chased after me, and my buddy and the girl managed to run away. They hooked up that night, and have been dating for 8 months now. TL. Dr. Wildcard itches. While really pissed I drew a Venn diagram for my friend who was trying to hit on a random girl. 2 huge circles labeled good shag and top man. Tried to write his name in the area where they meet but ducked up. I then proudly presented it to her convinced my foolproof argument would convince her. Told a girl my mate was in a band that had played a gig to 5,000 people a couple of nights before. That he skydived, flew planes and was a semi-professional photographer. She gave him her number and rang him later in the night, but he fobbed her off so I never wingmaned him again. Prick. I owe my buddy big for this one. So I had a thing with this girl in high school and she wanted me to come over one night. I was at my friend's house, doing bro things and I asked him if I can leave for a few hours and come back later. Just then, this girl tells me that she needs to find a way to distract her 6-year-old sister so we can end up having time alone once I come over. My buddy looks at me and says, "Don't sweat it bro." We proceed to go to my fling's house and this girl's sister is playing N64 in the basement. My friend immediately jumps in and starts playing Mario Party with her. The girl and I end up messing around for about 3 hours while my buddy is in the next room playing N64 with a 6-year-old. 4 years later and I swear I still owe him. TL. Doctor, my buddy played N64 with a 6-year-old girl for 3 hours so I could hook up in the next room. My best friend was going for a second deployment in Iraq, so for a last night out, we'd go for some wings at a local sports bar we used to frequent. He's in army fatigues, I'm not in the army and not a damn person is paying him mind that he's going back over there the next day. So, a liquored up me stands up and announces to the bar, "This is my buddy, Otto Otterson, and tomorrow he's going back to Iraq to help defend our freedom." Naturally, the bar became a crowd and gave thundering applause. It's Texas, so major patriotism around these parts. People start buying him drinks. His bar tab is picked up along the way and no less than 3 women give him their phone number while I'm sitting back with a eating grin on my face. He ends up talking up 2 girls and taking a taxi home with the both of them. He told me the details and they were about as good as one could hope for. Back at the bar, I'm getting progressively more wasted and the bartender smirks at me and goes, "Don't let no one tell you you ain't serving your country." Neither. I guess getting a soldier a threesome is good enough service. A few years later I was the best man at his wedding, so I guess we're even. A couple weeks ago I shoved a cucumber up my butt so my buddy's girlfriend would let him try anal. My best friend was born with his heart outside of his body. His scars are crazy. As far as the girls we met growing up, he took a bullet for me and I owe him my life. He's a hero lol. At a bar and saw my friend checking out a pretty busty girl. I went over to her, bought her a drink, told her it was from him. She looked over at him and smiled. I made small talk for a while and could tell she was into him and she was the kind of girl that would have a one night stand. I could tell I wasn't doing much though, so it was time to bring out the big guns. I topped off my drink and just told her bluntly, "This guy's into you. He's got a big D," and walked away. He got laid that night. My buddies and I were at a party that died down after a while. My 2 buds had been drinking a lot and hit it off with 2 girls who were also drunk, and one of which I pawned off because she wasn't my type. As we all were getting ready for sleeping arrangements, I took to the couch while my friends took to the living room floor with these girls. I am always DD. Drinking isn't something that I do often. This sober-mindedness will be my wingman's special power. Well, as I laid there about to fall asleep, I began to hear a lot of small talk and making out. My one bud gets up with his girl and disappears before my eyes, somehow melting into the shadows of drunken sexual adventures. As I laid there dozing off, my one bud looks up at me with an expression that can only be described as I am about to seal the deal. He mouths this phrase, "What is her name?" while pointing at the girl who is nuzzling his neck. I look at him. In the most brossoff whisper I could muster, I told him. I got up and went onto the balcony. As I turned to close the door, he looked at me in the most 80s cliche way and gave me a thumbs up. Spring break in Fort Lauderdale, and me and my buddies spot 2 gorgeous girls at a club. They're on the bar dancing, denying guys left and right who try to buy them drinks. I start talking to these guys from Germany and I mention that my friend looks like Djokovic, famous tennis player. They start cheering for him and congratulating him on his tennis prowess. The sleuths' ears perk up as they think that somebody is famous in their midst. So they come down off the bar, start talking to my friend and I, and end up hooking up with us. All the while thinking they snagged a famous tennis player and his manager. Girl was kinda anxious and had been rejecting my unsuave buddy for a few weeks. We all go out to dinner and drinks. She gets a little tipsy and I read the signals that she was kinda into me. Start out giving her a foot rub in the booth but move up to her caves. Now I start doing what I do when I'm trying to seduce a girl. Do a great ducking job giving a massage but always undulate the muscles towards the V. It sends a not so subconscious signal. Rub the back of her knee for a bit. Through reading their body and face you can see how they are feeling for it. When she started to relax I moved up to her thighs. Keep the pressure undulating towards her womanhood and on her inner thigh. She moves her legs apart and puts her leg over me. Buddy has no idea this is happening. She leans her head back on the edge of the booth and closes her eyes. He asks what's up. She says, "I'm just a little sleepy. Let me rest my eyes." I take the hint and slide my fingers up to just below the nape of her legs. She's very warm. Continuing to put up a facade of being good for a few minutes, I rub her extreme upper leg. I let my fingers brush accidentally against her a few times. Her lips part. I rub her ever so gently. Then I excuse myself and say, "Well, I'm taking off. You guys have a good night." He says we can all go hang out somewhere. And I say, "Nah, I'm going to bed. You guys have fun." Buddy gets laid and brags to me. Never knew I fluffed her. I'm a better text flirter sexter than my buddy. So one time I took his phone and pretended to be him. After I sealed the deal, off he went to meet up with her. Turns out she was actually just really easy, so it had little to do with my phone skills. Still, good times. Expect to hear a lot of guys talking about whaling. Went paintballing with a group of mates. One of my friends, let's call him Fred, wanted to get with a girl he really liked. Let's name her Jane. Basically our group's objective was to get up a hill and grab a flag and bring it back down. Now me and him had been talking about this girl and I got her to come along for the day. So when the match starts, me and him bolt for the hill for the flag. We ran like our lives depended on it and we got there. Under all the fire going on around us, I look into his eyes and see his plea to grab the flag instead of me. I nodded and ran in front of him and faced backwards as he grabbed the flag. I then proceeded to get completely covered in paintballs and bruises as he runs back down the hill towards his to-be and asks her out at that moment. She says yes and he ran back to the base and we won. Later on that night when we were all watching movies, they both went upstairs to use the spare bedroom. When he walked out of that room and looked through the mirror at me, I gave him a small nod. He nodded back and soon we could hear them banging away. I'll tell my wingman story here. To not write a wall, I'll put it simple. He was hitting on a girl. I was down after losing my ex. Girl is a beautiful redhead, can't post pic, sadly, and I got interested on her. He noticed it. He gave up on her and introduced us. I'm dating her for 3 months now. D. Whoa. I thought I had a good story, but after reading a few of these I feel like a pussy. This is one of my finer wingman moments. The last original band I was in was signed and fairly successful. Pretty well known around my town and other fairly big towns close to us. We were playing a small show for a friend of mine at his bar, and he hadn't gotten any in a long time. So I came up with a plan. Asked our vocalist to fake a sore throat so I could have my buddy fill in the last 2 tracks. Problem was, he didn't know all the words to every one of our songs. So we played our set opener in a different key and way slower than usual. Postponed our mid-set song to the end of our set list, with me backing up his vocals. Halfway through the second and closing song, I spotted a couple cute girls admiring his vocals and pointed them out to him. Ended up going back on stage with him for a 2-song encore. Wrote the vocals down for him and told him to follow my lead. He took one of the girls home, and that was that. Actually they dated for a few months if I recall correctly. Plus my fiancé at the time was there. Saw the whole thing, and I got extra special help, a good friend out 6. Good times had by all. Edited for clarity.